Good evening and welcome back to another episode of Red Tinted Glasses. And well, if frustrated wasn't the word last time out, it probably feels appropriate on this episode. What an exhausting weekend, both mentally, physically, in those celebrations as well. And delighted to be joined on this episode, making her Red Tinted Glasses debut, Carole Innes. Carole, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Glen, and thanks for inviting me along. It's nice to do a different podcast.
I know, from Radio Scotland to Red Tinted Glasses. Some may say how the mighty have fallen, but some may say that's the next stepping stone in the career. I guess there's probably no better place to start than just the general feeling after full time. We were speaking before we came live tonight, Carole, about the fact that both of us and probably a lot of other fans travelled down to Hampden on Saturday with kind of no hope or expectation. So based on then what we saw over the course of the next 3 hours, it materialised. What was your feeling at the end of the game?
Yeah, just devastation, I think. I was crying. I'm going to admit that. I mean, I went down there just fully expecting to be in the pub by half time. Given the previous kind of Celtic encounters we've had at Hampden, where we've either not shown up or we've been, there's been moments in the game thinking Kenny McLean that you've just gone, oh no, it's just not our day. But I just thought with the performances we've had this season, Celtic haven't been that great, to be honest, this season. They've kind of been a bit sort of wobbly. But I just thought, nah, they're just going to trample us again. And to watch that game, which I have to say is probably one of the best games of football I've sat through. It had everything in it, excitement, tension. I mean, I was shaking like for most of the sort of extra time. But just the end, you felt so proud of the performances that they put a lot into it. They put everything into it, and you could see that they were just drained, as were we. But just proud. We didn't win. Nobody expected us to win, but nobody expected a performance like that. Nobody would have expected that.
Yeah, and I think, obviously you'll get some people that say, look, we can't be too celebratory or backslapping. I've seen the phrase used over the course of today because ultimately we did lose the game. And what I liked about Peter Leven's post-match interview is that he kind of stressed that point was the pride in the performance, but ultimately the end goal was to reach the Scottish Cup final. We didn't do that, but there is lots of positives to take from that. And you're totally right, Carole, that the amount of emotion that all of us will have experienced through the course of the 90 minutes and extra time, you come away probably wondering, how have we come off the canvas twice in that game?
Absolutely.
There was probably moments as well when Sokler scores, McDonald scores, you probably think, is it our year? Is our name on the cup? But unfortunately, it wasn't to be, and it's just one of those games in the way it unfortunately worked. But I think from what we can take from Saturday anyway is that level of performance has to be now the benchmark going into the bottom six. Unfortunately,
and Levin said that. He said, guys, this is it. This is where your levels are, and that's what we've got to do for the next 5 games. We've got 5 cup finals coming up. If we want to get out of that danger zone and remain, I don't think that we'll end up in the sort of bottom 2. I think we've got more in us, and I think what Saturday will have given us, yes, we lost, but it's the manner that you lose. It's the manner of how a game's approached and the attitude. And that attitude was never say die. I mean, I have to say, when Celtic went 3-2 up, I thought, that's it. It's done. When we equalised, I thought, this is it. Then I kind of thought, we're going to penalties unless we can actually score again. When it went to penalties, I thought, Roos isn't great at penalties. A lot of pressure on some young boys. So, but yeah, you can be upset that we lost, and we're all devastated that we lost it, but it's the manner in which we lost it. We didn't crumble. We didn't kind of like just, we didn't just fall apart when they sort of equalised or went ahead. We fought back, and it was that fight, I think, that's going to take us through the rest of the season.
Yeah, and I think as well that kind of that fight, that passion, and I know you saw my LinkedIn post earlier. Exactly, where's it been? And it was such a trigger warning. One of the first things that someone said to me in the office this morning was, "I bet you're annoyed you haven't seen that all season," and it does make you question it. But I was thinking about walking the dog this evening. You're not getting asked, Carole, at work, why did you not perform the same as you've done last week? Everyone does perform differently. And, I know they've said a lot this season about the upheaval in managers has had an effect as well. But as Paul Donaldson says, a glorious defeat, but still a defeat, and being so close doesn't make it hurt any less. The effort and performance has to be the standard for every match for the rest of this season. And I think he ends it by saying, and next as well. I'm sure if Jimmy Thielen was watching the game, he's going to take a lot out of that performance as well.
I mean, I put a post up yesterday saying I hope he was watching that, which I think he apparently texted Levin at the end of the match. What he's going to see from that is a team that can fight, and a team that have heart, and he's going to see what it means to the fans. I mean, anybody watching that, Celtic dominated the fan base. We dominated the noise and the passion, and I spoke to a girl in the toilets just after half time. She said it means so much more to us because, they win all the time, they win, everything. And to them, it's just another trophy. I mean, most of their fans, a lot of their fans actually left. And when they actually won it, a lot of their fans left. We were all still there and we'd lost it, So he's going to see that passion from the fans. He's going to see that, he's got players there, some of them that have got that fight in them. But yeah, I mean, this season has just been, it's been so stop-start. And for the players, it must be really, really, you know what like it is yourself. When, bosses change at work, you know what's happening. It's very unsettling for players, I think. And I think that's come through in a lot of our performances this season. Added to that, we've got a few players, I think, that are not quite sort of where they were or are quality enough for Aberdeen at the moment.
And I think the result and probably just surmises our season perfectly. Good effort, but ultimately no reward. Kind of goes back to how we got on in Europe as well. But I think Sam Gordon kind of maybe summarizes a lot of general feeling from the game, was that he can far easier accept the defeat if our squad is totally broken come the final whistle, but we're still fighting to the last second. And, I totally agree. The point you made earlier, as soon as Matt O'Reilly made it 3-2 in extra time, I thought, oh, well, this is going to be an arduous 15 minutes because of how well that they were keeping the ball. But no, we came off the canvas again and didn't give up, and I think that's what we really want to see, and I think that's how us as fans can connect with the squad, because we see them giving everything. But we'll go through some of the talking points from the game itself, Carole. Obviously the big kind of
about 5 hours.
Yeah, I know, and that's just probably on the one incident that we're going to come on to. The biggest one was kind of going to be who replaces Graham Shinney, and how does the team line up as a result of Graham missing out. Dante Polvara was the man chosen to replace Graham Shinney. Angus MacDonald took the armband, but a lot has been made. I was quite vocal on Connor Barron's performance. I thought he really stepped up without Graham Shinney beside him. Do you think, obviously suspended for Motherwell coming up at the weekend, do you think we might see less of Graham Shinney moving forward based on what we saw this weekend, or is it difficult to say, taking the one game out of context?
I've always been a fan of Graham Shinney. I love, he's a passionate player. Plays for the jersey. His work rate is brilliant. What I would say is this season, he's not as impressed me as much as he did previously. Work rate's great if you're getting something out of it. Graham sometimes has a work rate that nothing comes of it. I think Barron steps up, as you say, without him there. I think the midfield's a bit calmer. I think I mean, going back to Barron, I think Barron should have been taken off. He was struggling big time, but the problem we've got is, our bench was pretty weak.
Yeah.
After Hoylett came on, you're looking at the bench thinking, right, what have we actually got here that can do something? And it's pretty weak. But I think Barron performs better without Shinnie. I think this weekend, Shinnie's going to be missing. I think he'll probably start with the same team, I would imagine. And hopefully Barron's leg isn't giving him the jip it was giving him on Saturday.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I think Barron has had some decent games this season, but I think sometimes he's gone missing a bit. I don't know if that's because of other stuff going on that, obviously rumours are that he's away and stuff like that. I don't know if that's affected him sometimes, but, to a man they stepped up on Saturday, and we didn't miss Graham Shinnie on Saturday.
But I think that's also credit to the midfield, Dante and Connor, that we didn't miss Graham Shinnie, for those that rate Graham in that midfield. And as you say, that presence, that leadership that has been highlighted in a person like Graham. And I just wonder, going into next season, obviously he's getting older, his legs aren't what they used to be. Will he be more of a bit part player? But, obviously, I guess a lot remains to be seen on the contract situation for Connor Barron as well. But I think, testament to those coming in and really stepping up. But I think, quite a valid point that we could probably see a bit later on in the game about the kind of strength and depth certainly coming off the bench. And that's no discredit to both Ryan Duncan and Shayden Morris. On a personal level, it's just, Ryan's not had a lot of games. Shayden's obviously last time out was well documented how poorly that went.
I think Shayden struggles at this level. I'm as you say, it's not personal, but I just think he struggles at this level. When he came on Saturday, he basically did nothing. And at this level and a game of that magnitude, you can't have players that. You need players that will come on and change a game or that will add something to it. And I don't feel that he did that.
No, and I think the best player that came off the bench, other than maybe the more unexpected players, I should say, would have been Jack Milne, and how he really rose to the occasion, replacing Nicky Devlin. He really kind of stood out and must be given Jimmy maybe a bit of thought for that right back area coming into next season. But when you go into these games, Carole, you're always looking to either keep it tight for the first 10 minutes or grab the first goal. Well, we kept it tight for the first 10 minutes and grabbed the goal all in the opening 5 minutes. I think I was more stunned than jubilant when Miloski found the back of the net to give Aberdeen what kind of felt a deserved lead, because those opening exchanges, I thought we controlled well. We were, even after going 1-0 up, we kind of didn't really kind of seem phased by a lot of Celtic's problems.
Yep.
And I think the biggest disappointment will have been the fact that their goal came from a lapse in concentration, a poor bit of judgment. I know a few people are maybe clutching at straws that it could have been a foul on Angus MacDonald. I think it's very clutching. He's just got to either hoof it clear or pass it back to the goalkeeper. So kind of disappointing when you're in that situation, in control. You gift a team like Celtic an easy way back into the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think we were by far the best team for the first 20 minutes, I would have said. I couldn't believe how good we were, how pressing we were. We didn't sit back. We went at them. The first goal was just a beautifully taken goal. And it was just gasp shock all around. My God, we've gone into the lead in 2 minutes, and then you kind of go, okay, it's 2 minutes. We've got a long time to go yet. But yeah, as you say, you can't let a team like Celtic back in, because it gives them something to hold on to. Then they then kind of smell blood, and Angus, the ball got caught under his feet. There wasn't really a foul of that as far as I could see, and it was just unfortunate, that Celtic have got players there to take advantage of that. But once they got back into it, once they got that goal, I think they could sort of sniff blood, as I say, and sort of they seemed to regroup after that and started pressing us. We started dropping back a little bit after that, and I was quite concerned at that point. I thought, it's 1-1 and we're falling deeper and deeper, and we're going to end up letting them in here, which we didn't up till half time.
Yeah.
It was half time came and we were still 1-1, so that was decent.
What was your feeling at halftime going in 1-1? Was it one of, content the fact that we're still in the game, maybe expecting going down pre-match not to be in the game at halftime, or a tinge of
Yeah.
disappointment that we could have probably been going in 1-0 up, or maybe more if we'd kept the ball a bit better up top?
Yeah, I mean, I said when we were going in the bus down, I said, if we can go in 0-0 at half time, I would be happy with that. And 1-1 effectively at half time. Disappointing, yeah, that we'd lost a stupid goal. It came from, as you say, nothing. So that was disappointing. But from the first half performance, I thought this team's actually up for it today. We've got more in us. I didn't dream the second half would kind of be the way it was. And I did think Celtic would come out of the traps because they do that. We've seen them so many times this season. They've gone in either behind or level, and they've come out second half and steamrollered the opposition and gone for it, and it's ended up 3-4. But for some reason I thought, no, I don't think they're going to do that. I think, we're going to come out and, we've got our tails up, and there was a confidence about the team that I haven't seen in a long time. So I was quite looking forward to the second half, I have to say.
And then it started. I think, I probably kind of agree with that in the sense that the way we'd been playing, I thought we would have. I don't know if it's, Brendan Rodgers put a right rocket up that Celtic team, or we were just still a bit kind of shell-shocked from maybe our own good start and the fact that we were playing Celtic off the park for parts of that first half. But the second half, we really struggled, that opening kind of 10 minutes to really get out our own half. For me, the biggest frustration on Saturday for times, and as much as I'm one of his biggest fans just on a personal level, was Duke, because not only was he kind of poor at tracking back, I felt that at times on Saturday, the slightest bit of contact, he was just going down looking for fouls. And
he's done that a lot this season, and it's the Duke of last season would have not done that. He was strong, he was forceful. I mean, he outmuscled anybody that came near him. This season he's gone down far too quickly, and you get a reputation doing that, and people know that he's going to do it, so they play on it and stuff. And I don't know, he just seems to lack. He just seems to lack the kind of initiative and the force that he had last season. He seems to lack that. I mean, when he got the ball last season, you were guaranteed he was just going to run with it, and he would get somewhere, and he would probably pass about 2 or 3 players at the same time. And nowadays it's very much like, oh, Duke's got the ball, when's he going to fall over, kind of thing,
And it's really frustrating because we all know there's a player in there, and Don Robertson was never going to be giving us a decision like that, let alone obviously what we're going to come on to a little bit later on as well. But for me, that was kind of the frustrating part, because you could see the success Celtic were having down that right side. And it was building, and obviously they went to their bench and bring on James Forrest to almost utilise that gap that was being left between Nicky Devlin and Duke at the time. And it was a frustrating goal to kind of concede, but more so the manner of the goal. Now, obviously being at the game and being a million miles away from that goal as we were in the West Stand, you probably don't see it as clear as day. But Kaiser saying that McDonald and Roos should be stopping that shot. I mean, if Angus was at fault for the first goal, I really don't know what he's thinking for the second goal. Pretty much moving his leg out the way.
It went through about 5 defenders, and it almost seemed to be slow motion. I don't know, like when you were I was just like, oh my god, that ball's going, and it was like it seemed to trundle in. It seemed to take forever. And you're like, well, what's the defence doing? They're all just like standing there, and I agree. I think that should have been stopped.
Yeah, and I think it's just a really kind of big frustration that, again, it felt like an easy goal being conceded, and probably Kelrush didn't really have a serious save to make at that point, and we hadn't really made Celtic work to get in front. It was 2 easy goals. And, probably at that time you think, well, there's our chances gone, more so from the way we've been playing. But you've got to credit Leavin, Anderson, and the rest of the squad. Well, obviously the coaching staff for making those changes. Some of them obviously forced, as we've talked about, Jack Milne coming on for Nicky Devlin and kind of really stepping up in his place. But 2 substitutes that really influenced the game in a massive favour to Aberdeen was, of course, Esther Sokler coming on and Junior Hoylett replacing Duke. Now, where Duke might have the legs and Junior doesn't, Junior certainly has the quality. But I want to talk about Esther Sokler because he's a player that we've really not seen a lot of since the turn of the year. But hopefully Saturday was an insight into maybe what we are going to see next season if, and it still is a big if, Bojan Miovski does go in the summer.
I mean, Bojan will be away, no doubt about that. And I love Esther Sokler, I just have to say. I think there's a great player in there. And, that goal that he scored was just magnificent. And you could see how much it meant to him. I saw the video today on Twitter, and it was just like, oh my God. I mean, he was so excited. I do think there's a decent player in there. I think he needs time, and I think he needs to be given a chance, and I think he needs to come out of Bojan's shadow almost. I think if we can keep a hold of him, I think he might be our next Bojan. Don't quote me on that.
Good luck with that. That's going to be clipped up and used next season when he can't hit the back of the net after a few games.
But no, I really like him. I think he's quite an exciting striker. I think he's just got something.
Yeah, and I think, Oswald the Frisky saying, good to see you've made it along to join in by watching, but not come on to the co-host seat, Kevin, that Sokler is the ready-made replacement for Miovski and Dave Stewart. And I think this is a good point because obviously there were some big chances that Esther had in extra time. Give Sokler minutes and he will score. And I just wonder if he had a bit more minutes.
Yeah, he needs game time. I mean, strikers thrive on scoring goals. That's their confidence. And, you look at, the good strikers we've had in the past, Adam Rooney. Adam Rooney would have maybe 5 chances in a game, but he would get one of them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And I think Sokler will be the same. I think give him time and give him chances and he'll get goals. He's quite an exciting young, I don't know how old he is actually, but he's quite an exciting.
But yeah, he's exciting nonetheless. But in the nature of that game, you probably felt as the game eked towards what would have been the end of regulation time that our chance had come, and we had a really good chance through Junior Hoylett about 5 minutes before the end. And I mean, I've not watched it back enough to capture that chance. And I still think from being at the game, and I don't know about you, Carole, but he's got to be hitting the target from that chance. Do you think Bojan could have played the ball a little bit better? Because I know a few people have commented on that. But
yeah. I mean, it was just... It was a chance from Hoylett, but it could have been a better chance if the ball had been a better ball. Yeah. But yeah, that was a real kind of like, I think I was sitting with my head in my hands at that point.
I thought that was it.
That was it. I thought, oh no, that's it. That's our chance. We've blown it.
But for some reason, that chance almost seemed to galvanise the squad, because it seemed for some reason Celtic really went into their shell after that, and it was onslaught from Aberdeen, and we got our reward. And
McDonald's goal.
Well, you've got Esther Sokler's goal beforehand, and I think it was Stefan Gartenmann who originally plays the ball. And what a ball it is from Stefan, who, fair play to Stefan, who has been heavily criticised by Aberdeen fans on this podcast as well for some of his performances in recent weeks. He really stepped up to the occasion at the weekend. Beautiful ball out to Junior Hoylett, who controls it and puts it on a plate for Esther Sokler. And as you say, sparks wild scenes, that fixed camera that showed that, and just sheer noise that came from, I widely talked about small travelling support, but we might not have been there in our numbers as usual, but we more than made up for it in noise and passion.
Absolutely. And, mentioning Hoylett, I mean, to me, he changed the game.
Mm-hmm.
And his quality shone through. I mean, both of his passes over were unbelievable. And it's the only thing that I will actually give Neil Warnock credit for, is getting him here. I don't know what the kind of I don't know what the thing is at the end of the season, if he's going away or if he's going to stay or what the heck. But, he is a quality player, and you can see that, he's very, very good. And he changed that game for us in that part when he came on. He's got a very good vision. The crosses that he made were just drop dead, perfect. And, to see something like that at a game like that was just unreal. It was just brilliant.
And the best thing about them as well, they seem effortless.
Yeah.
And I think
he's got the experience. That's the thing. He's got the experience, and he doesn't panic. He just does what he does. Do you know what I mean? And younger boys that have maybe not had the experience on playing at Hampden with that atmosphere and everything may have panicked or shanked across, or he just didn't do that. He just inch perfect, brilliant.
Yeah, I can't remember if it was in the 90 or in extra time, but for some reason we let Jack McKenzie go and take a corner, and he failed to beat the first man, and thankfully went out for another corner, and Junior Hoylett just sauntered over and be like, "Move aside, I'm taking this one," and puts it perfectly to the back post. But you think when you score 20 seconds before the 90's up that right, that's it, we're gonna see it through, and I'd missed how much injury time had gone up, so I was frantically texting my mum and anybody that was watching, being like, "How long is left? Because I can't deal with this." And there was still time for Jack McKenzie to physically put his body on the line. I think it comes off his face.
Come off his
Again,
face.
just showing how much the players were committed to the cause by literally putting their bodies on the line. And thank God, because I could not have taken them going up the other end and scoring to kill the game in that manner.
I know, and I mean, for the game itself, you've got to give credit to Leven for his tactics. I mean, that squad, and it was quite a similar kind of squad, couldn't lay a glove on Rangers at the League Cup final. So, why was that? What was the difference? If we'd performed like that against Rangers, we would have beaten them by miles.
Is it a mentality thing? Because you just need to compare and contrast, of course, Barry Robson's post-match press conference after that defeat at Hampden to Peter's comments. Was the mentality not there from the man leading them? And someone else said right at the start of the podcast back in the comments, there's been a lot of you interacting, so I can't remember who it was that said it. But, of course, over the 90 minutes, Peters remains undefeated against Celtic this season. So, and I think, the way we performed and the way he set us up kind of just makes me glad that he's going to be a part of the coaching setup next season, and he's got that experience and kind of a little bit of know-how as well. Moving into extra time.
Oh God, do I have to relive it?
Yeah, well, we're going to speak about something that Graham Gibb commented on as well regarding a fitness issue.
Okay.
He's asking, do we have a fitness issue? In previous games, we've lost a lot of late goals. On Saturday, it only seemed to be Aberdeen players who were cramping up, and kind of goes back to the start of the season where we were told we were going to be one of the fittest teams in the league. I just wonder how much the European exploits and the extra games that we've kind of had over the course of the season has maybe caught up with a few of those players. But both Barron and Miovski going off, not only obviously if the game goes to penalties, which it did, they would have been almost certainly in the top 5 of our penalty takers.
Yeah,
that has a huge influence on mentality, because if you're a Celtic, that's a guaranteed penalty taker coming off in Bojan Miovski. And the way Connor Bannon had certainly performed second 45 and kind of looked to control most of that game in extra time, I felt him coming off kind of lost us a little bit of momentum. Ultimately not too much, because we go on to equalise, but they were huge blows in terms of coming off for Aberdeen. Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what it is with the fitness. I mean, I'm not a footballer, obviously, but I don't know. They do train, obviously. I don't see them training that much. I mean, obviously, you know, I stay in West Hill and sometimes pass Cormac Park and stuff, and you know, they maybe do a lot of gym training, which obviously you can't see. I know they do grass training and stuff, but it doesn't seem to be for long. But yeah, I mean, the fitness issue. We should have a fit squad. You know, I mean, we've got every facility, you know, beautiful facility there. We've got no reason not to have a fit squad. We've got a very young squad, and they should be up for as many games. I mean, you know, I kind of, when you think back to older times like 80s and 90s, you know, did players have fitness issues? You know, I mean, I don't remember seeing Willie Miller hobbling off, you know, with that. But you know, it shouldn't be an issue these days. Fitness. I mean, they've got fitness coaches. They've got, you know, they've got their menus. They've got their training. They've got their gym work. You know, they've got every available resource to them. They're young guys. They're professional athletes. We shouldn't be having fitness issues.
No, we shouldn't.
And as you say, it makes a huge difference when you come down to extra time and penalties. And yes, I know Saturday they ran their legs off, and that was a very physically demanding game, and probably a very mentally demanding game as well. Yeah. But as you say, when you've got to take people off because of a fitness issue, and it gives Celtic that kind of like, yes, Majowski's not there, then that's a winning and losing a game.
Yeah, and I'm not having a go at Bojan for not being fit because he's carried us most of the season, but
your guy deserves a rest.
Psychologically, the way that pans out for both sides has a huge impact the longer the game goes on. But of course, Bojan could have had an opportunity to score in extra time had Esther Sokler squared it. But I think when you're a striker who's already scored running 1-on-1, you fancy your chances. But unbelievably, he doesn't hit the target, and I just couldn't believe at the time. I mean, it wasn't until somebody pointed it out on the watching the game back that he should have probably rolled the ball to Majowski for an empty net. But
I think the ball kind of stuck in the turf a little bit with Sokler. I don't think he could get his foot right onto it. I think that's kind of what happened. But yeah, that was it was like, oh my God.
Just another one of those kind of chances that you thought, why can we not take these in this situation? But again, timings seem crucial. And when Matt O'Reilly scored that goal to put Celtic 3-2 up, it was just on the cusp of half-time and extra time. And I thought, if only... And you could see Connor Barron almost pulling his shorts up and just screaming in frustration at the probably pain of thinking, how are we getting to come back again? But we do. But before we speak about the equaliser, Carole, there was a small contentious decision that needs to be discussed, because Junior Hoylett challenges for a header. Somehow there was a sniper allowed into Hampden because Alistair Johnson falls down like he's been snipered. Junior gets up and is fouled by Cameron Carter-Vickers, and you see the reaction.
He sits with his head in his hands afterwards.
Exactly. And Don Robertson points now.
He did. He went like that, then he went like that.
Now, I was so excited by the fact he pointed to the spot that I turned around to celebrate, missing the fact that he then pointed away from the goal. So I was thoroughly confused.
I think everybody in the ground was thoroughly confused, Glenn. It's the weirdest situation. I didn't actually know what was happening. I was like looking at it going, right, okay, he's pointed there. We were all like, rah! Then he pointed there within 2 seconds. And I'm thinking, hang on a minute, Alistair Johnson's in the ground. So if that's a foul, why is he not blown for a foul when that happened? Why is he allowed play to carry on? And then Carter-Vickers is sitting there with his head in his hands looking dejected. And it's like, why isn't that a penalty then? And I don't think anybody in the ground actually knew what was happening. And far less Don Robertson. Ridiculous. An absolutely ridiculous decision. And the most annoying thing about it, had it been at the other end, it would have been a penalty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want us to both don tinfoil hats and sound like fans of a certain Glasgow club, but
100%.
the whole of Scottish football outside of those two clubs from Glasgow know that had that been at the other end, it would have been a penalty. And as Richie MO3 probably won Twitter for me on Sunday as I tried to not stay on it to get wound up by the decisions, saying that we all remember what happened in the 2018 final when Dedrick Boyata knocked out GMS, and that wasn't even a foul, I should say.
I know.
But
The thing about it is I actually did have some Celtic people on my Twitter who said, do you know something? We would be absolutely raging if we didn't get that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, you would have got it because you're Celtic. But so even Celtic fans were actually saying, do you know, that actually should have been a penalty, 100%.
Well, I think the ones that have a bit of common sense can admit that it was one that they got away with. The rest are just, head buried in the sand. But I think the biggest thing that didn't help the situation from Don Robertson there, as Graham Gibbs says, he was awful in the League Cup final too. We've got to remember it was the same match official and VAR official that decided it wasn't a foul by Jack Butland on Duke in the last minute of the League Cup final. So once again, we were subjected to some poor officiating, and I just wonder if Aberdeen are going to go all Nottingham Forest, or Barcelona, who I saw have come out, their owners come out and done an interview demanding the game be replayed once he hears the audio. And I can just picture Dave in his home at Atlanta preparing that now.
It's very difficult. I mean, we voted for VAR, and we thought VAR would improve our game. We thought it would do away with these errors. Referees can't be everywhere and they can't see everything. So, when VAR came in, it was like, right, okay, this will sort the wheat and the chaff. If there's a clear and obvious error, at least it'll get seen and it'll get looked at. But what's happening is, especially at Pittodrie, this is the other thing that we were speaking about on Saturday. Why is it at Pittodrie, when there's a VAR decision, it goes by like 10 minutes to actually look at it? Go to Hampden and it's decided within 3 seconds, But what VAR is doing is, it's taking away from referees that decision making, but it's not helping. It's hindering more than helping, And what did they look at when they looked at VAR? They looked at VAR for that decision. Now, you're not looking at VAR for a foul, because that VAR doesn't look at fouls. So you're not looking at VAR for the foul. You're looking at VAR for a penalty. That was a penalty. 100% that was a penalty. So what's VAR seeing there that we don't see?
But I think the issue that I have with this kind of incident in particular, and I know we've actually not even spoken about the Liam Scales handball, so we'll come on to that in a second as well. But on the Junior Hoylett one, if there was an issue that Don Robertson believed that was a foul, blow for it straight away.
Yeah,
we'd all be raging, because football's a contact sport. Junior's allowed to go there. I'd be embarrassed if I was Alistair Johnson being out jumped by Junior in the first place. And he buys that. He buys that free kick by going down and holding his ankle.
And
I think the stud grazes him at a push. I mean, I probably hurt my leg more celebrating Boyan's goal than Alistair Johnson did in that contact. But you see Don Robertson speaking to Greg Taylor, and he says, I played on to see what would happen before awarding the foul. He's created a world of problems for himself, because he doesn't know that there's going to be a penalty decision. It could have landed in a goal. If there's a foul, blow for it straight away. He's contradicted the whole protocols of VAR and made a mess. I had fans of Hearts, Hibs, all messaging me going, that is a Stonewall penalty, it'll get given. And I was thinking, right, buzzing, like, we're back in this game, we've got 5 minutes to maybe even grab a winner. And, then it was like, no, they're saying it's not getting given. I can't believe it. And I was like, well, I know who we're playing, and I know what final the SFA are wanting. And, it's so sad, Carole, that, we speak about the game in general from Saturday being a great advert for Scottish football, but it's also so sad that there will be fans of that mindset and have that doubt that we know what the SFA deep down wanted to come out of this weekend, and unfortunately they've got it.
And that's the thing. There's a lot of our fans, as well as other teams fans, who refuse to go to football because of the VAR decisions and because of the fact that what's the point? Because everything in this country is run for two teams. And You know, that there is very much that. And, you know, all you can say to that is, look, you know, we have to play against 12 men. And we have to win these things. And, you know, we can't rely on anything going for us. Anything. I mean, even some of the fouls on Saturday that we weren't getting, you were like, really? You know, it's unfair, completely unfair. Of course it's unfair. But, you know, we have to be bigger than that, and we have to win the games on our own volition. And that's all you can do about it. You can, you know, it's up to the head, kind of, it's up to the chairman of the clubs, and it's up to the SFA, SPFL to realise or to see what they're going to do about VAR. Are they going to keep it? Are they not going to keep it? I prefer games now without it. I mean, you know, it's that whole stopping and starting, and, you know, you celebrate something and then 2 minutes later you're like, oh, well, okay, it was offside, or, you know what I mean? It's just ruining that momentum. As you said, football's a contact sport, it's a quick sport. You know, every decision that's wrong, or every decision that you don't get, you'll get another one. Do you know what I mean? But with VAR, it just seems to be decision after decision after decision. And we seem to have been a lot of victim of it this year, I think.
And I just
and I'm
wonder.
not playing the victim card, but I think there have been a lot of VAR decisions this year that we've not got.
And, you know, like, the club were very classy in their statement post Livingston, and I just wonder if we'll see another statement, or if you know, the club will keep it in-house privately like they did after the League Cup final. But, you know,
the problem with it all is there's no accountability. There's no accountability from the referees. There's no explanation given to the fans as to what happened, what was said, what was the transcript, what was that conversation. You know, and that's my issue, is that there's no accountability for it. Don Robertson goes off and just does his next job and whatever, you know. But decisions can cost clubs hundreds of thousands of pounds. And
well, it can also cost them trophies at the end of the day. And, you know, going back to the first half, and obviously the Liam Scales handball, you know, I don't know how much you think that's a handball, because, you know, Bojan and him are so close. But
the problem with the William Scales one is, I don't think there's been. So I had an argument with Tom English about it on Saturday. Tom was like, I hadn't seen it enough by that point that I could argue back. He said, Carole, it was definitely outside the box. It was definitely outside the box. I don't think there's a camera angle that actually really shows where it was. It's the camera angle that's the problem, because the only camera angle I've seen is, you know, the lines there, Liam Scales' feet are kind of like there, and it looks like his feet are inside the box, but his arms not. But I'm like, you need another angle. I mean, I can't believe that we don't have the technology to be able to 360 degree that and actually put a line down and say, yeah, that was right. It shouldn't be that you're arguing about where somebody's feet and arms were in such an important game as that.
And why we don't have a fixed camera on the lines of each box, even. You know, it's the National Stadium. It's hosted, obviously, the Scotland games, and has had VAR for that. And I'm sure the quality from, you know, going back to Scotland v Israel when there was VAR, was of a much higher standard. And as you say, there's one picture from kind of behind the goal, and one angle makes it look like it's in the box or on the line. And you've got to remember as well, on the line is inside the box. But then there's a picture from the kind of corner flag angle looking at it, and his hand looks miles outside the box. So different angle gives different perspective. Now, someone was saying to me at the weekend, now, I'm either going to get myself in a lot of trouble for saying this or start a whole world of rumours, but who cares, that allegedly during the Rangers League Cup final, there was supposed to be 5 VAR cameras, but 2 of them, as it moved to injury time, switched to, one moved to viewing the Rangers fans and one moved to the dugout, so that the TV companies could capture the footage of the celebrations come full time. Hence why there wasn't enough clear and obvious angles to help us award the foul for Duke being fouled on Jack Butland. Now, surely there should have been enough fixed cameras in that ground to produce a clear and obvious decision. But it feels like guesswork once again on that one, because there wasn't anything clear and obvious. Now, it kind of goes back to, where should the benefit of the doubt fall? Should it fall to the attacking team in that situation? Similarly, the Junior Hoylett one, but it depends what team you're playing in this situation. It really feels.
Definitely. And yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, a national stadium, we should have stayed there. I mean, the scoreboard didn't even work for some point.
Yeah,
It went
for the
off.
whole first half.
Yeah. It was like, oh, no scores then, and
They couldn't even spell. They couldn't even spell Scottish Cup finals. Yeah,
Scottish. And then there was no extra time. You didn't know how much extra time was getting played. It was just it's a disaster that you're actually having to. Decisions like that should be a case of, you can see it 100%. You can see it, and that's it. Not. Was it? Wasn't it? Was it? Wasn't it? And I was annoyed on Saturday that I couldn't argue back with Tom English, because I hadn't actually seen a good enough angle of it to say you're speaking rubbish. It's actually
totally. But even on the final thing on the Junior Hoylett thing is, if the likes of Tam McManus and Ewan Murray are saying it's not a foul, then it's not a foul. But as Paul Hannon says, he hates the fact that VAR is talked more than the game itself or the games, and that is a sad fact, because the game was so enjoyable at the weekend from a wider kind of angle. But Angus MacDonald once again lifts us off the canvas, scoring at the back post, another brilliant ball in, and a brilliant header, because he has to really angle that well to get it in the back of the net. And you think, bloody hell, how?
I know. And, I was so chuffed for him, because, I think Angus MacDonald's a really, really good player. He obviously struggled a bit during the season with not getting game time and stuff. I actually met him at the Village Hotel when I was in having a coffee, and, he was saying how much he just wants to play. He just wanted to play. He was fully fit, and he just wanted to get going and get playing. And he said, it's so frustrating when I can't play. And giving him the captaincy, I think, was really good for him. And the whole kind of he's gone from villain to hero in 90 minutes. I was so chuffed for him. I really was. I just thought, good on you. And it was a great header. Brilliant.
Yeah, I was made up for him as well, as you say, for a player that's been really kind of wanting to play this season, and under Robson wasn't given that chance after his injury at the start of the season. And you can tell he's one of those players that takes a lot of kind of personal pride in playing for this club. I think he goes a bit underrated from some because of some of the mistakes he can make. But for me,
players that play for Aberdeen are going to make mistakes.
That's why they're here.
We're not Man United or Man City or Liverpool, or I mean, our players are, they're decent players, but they're going to make mistakes.
And look, it goes to penalties, and penalties is a lottery at the end of the day.
Well, I would disagree with you.
Go on then. What's your theory on it?
Penalties are not a lottery. If you practice and practice and practice and practice and practice penalties, they are not a lottery. One of our previous managers, and you'll know who I mean, was adamant that penalties was not a lottery. Penalties was something that you go there and you belter it. And, it depends on when I looked at when we were taking the penalties, it was like, right, okay, it's him and him and him. And, it was like, they've obviously spoken about who's going to go up first and who's going to kind of like follow and stuff like that. Our penalties were very, very good. I thought Roos, I don't think saved a penalty in his life.
Well, he saved, the only one I remember him doing is the Nisbet one at the end of last season, and that was more down to fortune rather than anything else, because it hits his legs as he dives the other way.
And I know from a goalkeepers are not meant, they're not meant to. It's on the striker to score it, not the goalkeeper to save it. However, surely to God, by the law of averages, you're going to get some of them, but not when you sort of like stand there like a stick and don't do anything. And then the whole going down just annoyed me to death. And I thought, okay, you've got cramp. Could you not just hobble off to the side instead of putting your own player off? Do it when Celtic are coming up. By all means, wait for it. don't make poor Ryan Duncan stand and wait for it. You know, the poor guy, he's got a stadium full of folk, you know, booing him in one half, urging him on the other half, and his goalkeeper's lying in the ground with his leg in the air. It's like, seriously?
Yeah, I saw someone suggest that obviously with the extra sub in extra time, and I don't know how many we'd made by that point. Could we have looked to bring on Ross Doohan for penalties because he could arguably worked more? And Sam, what a brilliant comment! Sam Gordon saying it helps if your keeper doesn't have a nap halfway through the shootout as well. I mean, what is he thinking? I mean, the only penalty he actually got close to saving, he somehow gets cramp. And as one of my colleagues, Andrella, said to me today, how'd you get cramp as a goalkeeper? He wasn't running about for the whole game either.
I have no idea. I was like, what were you doing to get cramp? I don't know. I mean, everybody round about me was going, you know, mental about it. It's like, get off, you know, just walk off the pitch and then sit down over there. You know, if you've got cramp, don't get attention on the goal line. You know,
just army crawl off the pitch for all I care. Just get out of the way and then get back on whenever something else happens.
I couldn't believe it. I was just like dumbfounded. I've never seen, you know, and then obviously Joe Hart steps up and you're like, could this day get any wilder? That you've got goalkeeper on goalkeeper action now. It's like, what's happening? And then they missed it.
I'm just so glad that Joe Hart missed, but I have to say I do feel extremely sorry for Ryan Duncan in that entire situation.
Totally
Credit to Angus MacDonald as well for going up to him as he waited on his own with all that pressure. So really fair play to Angus MacDonald. He's also really unlucky as well because, you know, an inch either side, that goes in and finds the back of the net. It just wasn't to be. I'm just glad it wasn't ultimately the penalty that ended up costing us.
Yes, me too. I'm glad that it wasn't his one that cost us something.
But again, another grievance on my part was Kellerus again for Killian Phillips' penalty. Kellerus was protecting the ball every time it found the back of the net and making sure our players got it. But whoever took the Celtic penalty before Killian Phillips, Roos just walked off and let Joe Hart handle the ball and say whatever he had to do and kind of drop it and play those mind games with Killian Phillips and whether or not that had an effect or not. So for me, Kel Roos checked out halfway through that penalty shootout, which
he needs to check out at the end of the season, I think.
Yeah, well, I'll be interested to, as I said to Phil on the last episode, he never checked into Player of the Year last year. I'll be interested to see if he turns up this year or not. But look, it wasn't to be.
Wasn't to be, and poor Phillips got the kind of dull end of the stick, and you know, but you could see how much it meant to the players that, you know, they'd put a lot into it. Ultimately, we get nothing out of it. But a
nothing out of it,
and a sense of pride, and a sense. I think what it'll have done. I think their confidence. It'll have done their confidence some good. I think if we'd been horsed 4-0, I think I'd be really worried about the end of the season. We've got Motherwell on Saturday. I'd have been really, really worried about that if we'd been, you know, really thoroughly beaten. But I think that players should take a lot of confidence out of Saturday and go into Motherwell at home, thinking, you know, 3 points from that, and you know, maybe 3 points from St Johnstone home, 2 home games, so 6 points.
That would set us up nicely. And I think it was also nice at the end of the game, that connection between the fans and players as both sets applauded each other, really kind of showing from our part, showing the appreciation that the effort that the players put in. I also really enjoyed the pre-match when they finished their kind of handshakes or photos and that they all came over and did a collective applause to the fan to kind of really get us going. I did enjoy that.
I can understand why, you know, I mean, I feel sorry for the folk that didn't go because they missed an absolutely epic match. But, you know, the fact that, you know, it's been a really humdinger of a season. Early Saturday, you know, we're playing Celtic. We know what's happened before. You know, a lot of fans have paid a lot of money this season for trips abroad and all the rest of it. So I can kind of get why some folk didn't want to go to it. But, hey, those of us that were there can say we were there.
Yeah, and it's those like moments. I know, obviously, again, it ends in defeat, but those moments of those goals from Sokler and McDonald are part and parcel of why you go to experience that. As we said, Carol, we're both going on Thursday night. It's Player of the Year, widely expected. Pretty much can probably congratulate Bojan on scooping up the Player of the Year award.
Well done.
Who'd be there? Because I know they tend to announce a top three. Who would be your runners and riders in close contention for that?
Probably McGrath. I think McGrath's had a good season. He's been a pretty consistent. He's scored some decent goals as well. Devlin at the start of the season, I liked. He tailed off a little bit, I think, quality-wise. I think, who else? I'm trying to think. Mackenzie's been a bit up and down. Definitely not Roos. It's quite a difficult one this year, isn't it?
Well, I mean, outside of the winner, I think it'll be Miovski, McGrath. I do think Jack Mackenzie could get. I think his development. I wonder if Dante Polvara could have been in there for some of his performances in the European game.
He stood out in the European. Or Dadia. Who?
Yeah, no, or Dadia or Rhys Williams are not going to be up for consideration.
Habib guy.
Yeah, well, he did score at the weekend.
He did score at the weekend.
Yeah. And any preference on a goal of the season from you, Carole?
Probably Majowski Celtic, I think.
Oh, I went for Angus MacDonald at Helsinki. It was nice to warm us up on what was a very cold night.
Needed something.
Yeah.
I know when you look at this season, there's been some of the most bizarre games ever. I've never been at a football game where it's been stopped like 3 times for like snowplows to come.
Yeah, I know.
Singing Merry Christmas everyone and stuff like that.
Yeah, just that. It's really been a roller coaster, but we've got 5 games left now before the end of the season. That starts this weekend against Motherwell. We've also got a few walking wounded. We saw the cramp that a few players had. How important is it, if those players are fit, that we see that level of performance? It's obviously difficult, different occasion. Mm-hmm. That performance taken into Saturday, but is there any part of you that has a slight worry that we might have a kind of hangover, that heartache, and how that potentially affects us going into the game this weekend?
Yeah, I think my worry is that always when we're playing at home, teams will sit back and make it difficult for us to break down. That wasn't the kind of game on Saturday. It was a different kind of game altogether. I think, against Motherwell, I think we need to kind of go in with the same attitude we went into that Celtic game, press them from the start. We've been very slow starters this season. If we can just go at them for the start, get a couple of goals in, and then just sort of not ease off, but the pressure comes off. I think the longer we'll go without scoring on Saturday, if we do, the more pressure comes on it. And I think we kind of don't deal with pressure very well sometimes at home. We dealt with it fine on Saturday because it's a semi-final, it's at Hampden, it's it's the atmosphere, it's the day, but I think at home sometimes we struggle with that pressure. So that's going to be my only worry, is if we don't get an early goal to settle us down a little bit, I think the pressure will start showing. And it's this season has thrown everything at us, and would I be surprised if we drew with Motherwell? Probably not. Hopefully we can take 3 points from it, because we really need it. We just need to get out of that bottom churn.
Yeah, I think the quick start is probably key, just to kind of stun Motherwell's kind of any momentum that they want to come into this game. But it's also key for any pressure for those that probably are of the mindset that we are still in trouble. And look, I'm not saying we're not, because obviously mathematically there still remains a chance of us finishing 11th.
Yeah,
I'm still pretty confident we won't. And I think the fact that we've been kind of given, if you want to call it that, 2 home games to start the bottom 6, that's a huge opportunity for us to go out and exactly, as you say, go out and get 6 points there, and really kind of say, look, we're now safe, and then those remaining 3 games are just used as an opportunity to, maybe give some of the likes of Esther Sokler some minutes between now and the end of the season, or some other players that we haven't yet seen. But for me, really important that this weekend we continue that, I'll say in inverted commas, feel-good factor, in the sense that I felt at the end of the game on Saturday there was that togetherness between the fans and players that's been missing since probably Europe, since we left Europe.
Aye, I mean, since the European Games, you'll have seen it on social media. There's a huge disconnect, or there was a huge disconnect. Fans hate it when they think that a player's not, or players are not playing for the shirt, because that's all we want. Guys like you and guys that play football, that's their dream, is to go out on that pitch and play for a city that you live in and stuff, or a club like Aberdeen, a big club like Aberdeen. It's actually a dream to do that. So I think when people see players not putting that in, it's like, well, why should we show you any passion when you don't show us any? On Saturday, that completely flipped, and there was such a togetherness, and even though I was crying at the end, it wasn't. It was more out of frustration and more kind of like disappointment that out of such a good game, we came away empty-handed, and I felt for the players,
And I think that's why I wasn't as angry as I normally would be at losing a cup semi-final, because there was that pride, there was that passion, and there was that determination there to go out and win the game. But as we've said, and we'll probably continue to say, is that we can't just do that in one-off games. That has to be consistent. We have to see that week in, week out. And if we do see that week in, week out, we won't find ourselves back there in a position we are hopefully next season as well.
New manager.
Well, new manager, and I'm sure if he was watching, which I believe he was, as you said, him and Peter shared a text at full time, he'll have been encouraged by what he's seen. And I think, from listening to his interview and kind of hearing about how he enjoys the connection and the passion with fans that are passionate for their club, he'll have taken a lot from seeing that passionate support at the weekend as well. I know obviously these next 5 games will be difficult to kind of bring that atmosphere and bring that passion, because once we're safe, people will view it as there's not much else to play for. But certainly players will be playing for their futures anyway. But
well, that's it. And certainly on Saturday, the Red Shed, the guys, the ultras on Saturday were amazing. They were brilliant, and they need to bring that noise on Saturday and get behind the team on Saturday. I'd like to say I would be behind the team, but I'm actually going to Kilmarnock for the weekend, not to watch the football after. I'm going to stay with a friend, but
I thought you were going to say we were going to be in corporate, and I wouldn't have put that past you.
No, Kilmarnock Hearts, no thanks. No, I'm going away for the weekend. So, but yeah, I mean, anybody that can be there, and kind of get the team across the line for the first 3 points of what will hopefully be. Well, I would like to think 9.
Yeah, well, hopefully. It would be good to kind of round off the season with a bit of momentum as we head into the off season anyway. But Carole, it's been a pleasure getting you on Red Tinted Glasses for your debut this season. It's been a long time coming. Thank you very much for helping me out when
thanks for inviting me.
Not a problem. And thank you to everyone that has tuned into tonight's live episode here on the YouTube channel. As ever, if you have been watching this video live, remember to leave a like, comment your thoughts down below. Thank you very much to all of you who have commented throughout. There's been loads of comments that we've obviously been able to use as well. It's always great seeing your opinions as well. If you are watching on catch up, leave your thoughts on, of course, that semi-final defeat, your thoughts on VAR, and how you see the remaining games going out between now and the end of the season. And if you've been following us on audio, remember to leave a like, review, and subscribe wherever you tune in. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time.